about OnlyFans? What do you do on the OnlyFans? You just jerk off and stuff, or?
I do that sometimes.
Wow! Do you have a lot of followers?
It pays for the fucking room.
My God! I'm telling you, I just wish I love my father so much, and he disowned me for sure.
But first, a word from our sponsors.
HotMovies.com has long been an ethical and affordable place to hashtag pay for some of your porn. Now with Hot Movies Select, customers gain access to unlimited viewings of tens of thousands of additional films from all their favorite studios for the low price of $24.95. Visit HotMovies.com, click Select Unlimited, and use promo code MANWHORE at checkout so they know who sent you. Now let's get to the show.
Welcome to the Man Whore Podcast.
Big boys don't cry on first dates. Big boys don't cry on first dates. Hey, welcome to the show. This week, everybody, I've gone fellow comedian and host of The Shift podcast, as well as a lass who does not want to see you cry on a first date. Katie Boyle, everybody. Very excited to share my conversation with her in a little bit. But first, wow, still so much conversation going on about that Connell Barrett episode from a couple weeks back, right? The dating coach guy. I wanted to read some things posted in our Discord server, the Champagne Room, because there's been quite the spectrum of reactions. Like we've got Russ F here, who's saying, "Hey, I just listened to Ep 387 because the email in 388 made me very curious, and wow, that rooftop bar story. That's something I would likely never, ever do." He's rather lucky she responded positively to it, because I imagine quite a few people would be a bit freaked out. And yeah, that rooftop bar story, that wasn't even the story that earned an angry email last week. This story was where he went to go get her a drink. She comes back. She's flirting or talking to all these other, finance bro guys. And he physically grabbed her arm and pulled her away, which she thought was super sexy and hot and confident. Cool. Good for her. But I think a lot of us tensed up and were like, ooh, oh no. Some people would not enjoy that. But then again, other people found the episode quite helpful. Like we got Piecraft here saying, "I honestly have to say, holy shit, this episode came right when I needed it. I've just met someone, and yes, while we are into each other, my indecisiveness does bug her. So talking about confidence, comfortability, and such definitely helps get the cogs in my brain turning." And Bike Girl 72 here is like, "Hey, I loved hearing about the inner working of the penis owner on getting girls. Perhaps we were all a little anxious." Shout out to the spider in the Patreon episode. Oh, yeah, that one was scary. And then I want to read one more gem here from Wido, who writes, "I like this episode and wonder if other people are skeptical of the abandonment of pickup artistry. I really liked the end of the podcast when Billy brought up the issue about intruding on some woman just trying to read her book in the park. Connell Barrett's response defending it seems to me to be fairly tone deaf. His focus is building confidence in men, and if some women get unwanted attention, well, I guess that's what happens. For all Barrett's talk about empathy previously, he never addresses that woman's experience." All of these interesting, thoughtful, insightful opinions popping off in our episode discussion channel on Discord. We got channels just for sharing memes and selfies. There's one channel just for sex toy recommendations. How about that? And it's not always orgies and butt stuff over there. We've got channels on parenting, on books. The new cannabis channel has been popping off like crazy for a bunch of stoners. So we would love to see you join the conversation, or you can always come by and just observe at manwhorepod.com/Discord. I had quite a few topics that I've been writing down over the past few days of what I want to talk about in this week's monologue, and I do not want to rant for too long on any one topic. I want to get y'all to the meat of this bad boy, to me and Katie Boyle, but I got some thoughts on some stuff. We got Laurel Hubbard, who is looking like she's going to be the first openly transgender Olympic athlete. Go you. She's a weightlifter out of New Zealand who began transitioning back in like 2013. Of course, the internet is ablaze with, oh my God, look at these trans women just coming in and taking our spots. But hey, she qualifies for all the rules. You know, her testosterone levels were within the parameters, you know. There are parameters. I did look it up because I don't like to have uninformed opinions. I think if you have an opinion and you refuse to read an article past the headline on that opinion, I think you should shut the fuck up and have your opinion alone to yourself in your mind. You're the reason why we had January 6th riots. You're the reason why we stayed inside our home all the time, because you just wouldn't believe science that you don't understand. I could tell you right now that the IOC guideline is your testosterone level has to be under 10 nanomolars per liter for a year prior to competition and throughout whatever eligibility time is going on during the competition. And right then and there, if you had any inkling of like whether or not trans women should be competing, and I just told you it has to be under 10 nanomolars per liter for this period of time, at that point, you should say, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I'm going to shut the fuck up. Why is that? Because you don't know what an anomaly is. I don't know what an anomaly is. I don't even know if I'm saying anomaly correctly. All I need to know is that a bunch of groups of a bunch of smart people with degrees in things that I don't have because I chose to drink a lot of alcohol in college got together and they came up with some sort of quantifiable metric. Under 10 anomalies. Some World Athletics organizations require it's 5 or less anomalies per liter or whatever. And yes, it is good to have a frame of reference, which the article did have because I read the fucking thing. And apparently the range for men is like 7.7 to 29.2 or something anomalies per liter. So, you know, the Olympics require that you got to be on the low end of that range, and other organizations require you're even below that. So can you all chill the fuck out and let the experts handle it? Anyways, I'm rooting for Laurel. I hope she wins the fucking gold, slams it down and says, suck my sack. Just to remind you about trash politics, Ron DeSantis signed a law, I think it was earlier this year or last year, that removes any sort of civil liability for using your car to run into a crowd of protesters who are in the street. You can hit them with your car and not be sued after the fact because of that law. Ron DeSantis saying, hey, you want to fuck up Black Lives Matter people, go for it. Well, in Wilton Manors, Florida, someone used a truck to run into a queer pride parade, not even a protest. Someone drove their truck into that crowd, killed somebody. Just remind you, like, local politics matters. That was a local legislature. You gotta vote in the odd number years, people, or nothing will change. Something kind of funny. A listener of the show, I mean, kind of funny, but kind of also weird and disturbing. But like a listener DM'd me on Twitter and quickly into the conversation asked me how I felt about racial humor. My perception is that this was a white guy. I might be wrong, but he like wanted to tell me a racist joke and not hate him. And I said like, ooh, you could probably just like Venmo me $50 first. And then he tried to haggle. He tried to haggle my rate for hearing his probably not funny racist joke that he proudly declared like he came up with it himself. He's like, no, I want you to hear the shitty thing that I was really clever enough to put together. So he tried to be like, well, I'm not working right now. How about 20? I was like, I really just don't want to hear this for less than $50. And he was like, all right, man, I'll come back to you when I've got it. Which I'm like, oh man, what if this is a really funny joke though? But hey, if he comes back with the $50 and I have $50, I can redistribute via Venmo on Twitter. So that happened. There's more OnlyFans panic, but I am being assured that we shouldn't panic. And again, if you want to know why local elections matter, Google Kevin Strickland and how much bullshit that is. I finally fucked on my roof. That was pretty great. It's taken a couple months, but we finally achieved that. And last but not least, my Lyme disease has now jumped up above like chlamydia and gonorrhea for illness I'm super scared of that I kind of treat as an STD, because technically I watched House. If you get a tick and then you sleep with me and the tick's on you, tick could jump onto me, and now I got the tick too. I was driving down to see a friend down Jersey Shore over the weekend, and I pulled over to take a whiz, and I walked into like the side brush on the side of the turnpike or whatever to take a whiz. I walked less than 4 feet into all of it. I was there for, I don't know, under a minute. In my car, I see crawling up my arm a fucking big ass tick. It hadn't bit me, didn't suck it in, but like I got that motherfucking off and I got him out of the car. And then as soon as I got to my friends, I was like, hey, not to be unsexy, but like I need you to check me for ticks. And she thought like, ooh, that can be really hot. That can be sexy. I'd be like, no. This is not sexy tick check. This is like Billy's freaking out tick check. You're a mother of three. I know you've done this before. Please do a thorough job. Like Man-Whore-Con is coming up in a couple months. Hey, Man-Whore-Con, everybody. And we're going to be in upstate New York. We're going to be up in Hunter, New York. And there's going to be plenty of like hiking and woods and stuff. And I'm telling everybody, you better check each other for fucking ticks. If any of you give me Lyme disease, I will be so angry. Before I left the Jersey Shore to come home, like I gave that front seat. I was up in there. I was just moving French fries and Five Guys burger crumbs just out of the way, being like, is there a tick over here? No, that's just salt. Okay. All right, everybody. I hope I didn't rant too long. I got at least a variety of topics in short bursts in there. Before we get to Katie Boyle, I did one other thing I will share with you is that I was emailed this morning by an e-commerce sex toy retailer. They were looking to potentially advertise here on the Man Whore podcast, instantly asking me for rates, not trying to bullshit me on anything. I poked around the site. It looked like one of these kind of trash e-commerce adult retailers who got their hands on a large bulk of low quality toys and products that they then flip like it's houses in a bad neighborhood. I didn't recognize one brand name, the entire website. I can't say I could trust like what a lot of the stuff on that site, the materials that like those toys are made out of. So I'm just like, I'm not responding to this. I'm not going to take what is basically guaranteed money for Billy. Could be as much as a month's worth of rent in this deal. I'm gonna turn down because I don't want to push bullshit on you folks. And one of the reasons I'm able to have that integrity to follow my conscience is because of the financial confidence I have in my Patreon community. I feel less desperate. I feel like I come from more of a place of abundance to make better decisions because of the fan whores who show up for me on Patreon. Fan whores like Brooke, the recipient of this week's Fan Whore Appreciation Moment, which doesn't have a lot of details about her because I literally can't find anything. All I know is her name is Brooke. So Brooke, you're great. Thank you. So if you want to help keep the Man Whore podcast funded primarily by listeners, if you want to help me keep avoiding shitty advertisers, if you want to keep avoiding me putting a bunch of episodes behind the paywall, you want to avoid me having to like join some sort of sketchy network, head on over to patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. Even $2 a month. Like if 1,000 of you right now pledged at the $2 level, Billy's going to be okay. All you got to do is your part. So if you have $2 in your monthly budget you think you can part with and send over here, I will be immensely grateful. You will be joining an amazing community of sex positive peoples. And Billy here can continue using his time and energy to give you dope content week in and week out. So one more time, become a member today at patreon.com/manwhorepodcast, Patreon, patreon.com/manwhorepodcast. And now for this week's guest, Katie Boyle. Katie's super funny. I've known her a very, very long time here in the New York City stand-up comedy scene. It's been so cool watching her career rise. She hosts the Shift podcast. It's also a podcast that talks about sex and dating. So we actually are doing a bit of a dual release episode here. We're releasing this conversation on both of our feeds. So as much as I want to tell you to go check me out on The Shift, it's going to be the same convo, but you should still go hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button for The Shift podcast, wherever you're listening to the Man Whore podcast. Now let's go chat with Katie Boyle. Variety is the spice of life, my friends, as a Kevin Smith movie once famously said. And our sponsor this week, HotMovies.com, is celebrating their acquisition of over 250,000 adult movies. Oh my, oh wow. So much porn in all one convenient place. They have so many movies in part so they can offer such a variety of content for whatever you are into. Because HotMovies.com, they license porn from all your favorite porn studios, starring all your favorite porn performers, doing all your favorite porn categories. Like the other night, I don't know why, I'm scrolling through Twitter and I'm horny and I'm kind of touching myself. I'm thinking, I need to see a trans woman fucking around with a cisgender woman. I don't know why, just feeling like that. Venus Lux pops up into my Twitter feed all of a sudden. I'm like, I need to watch Venus Lux, past Man Whore podcast guest, Venus Lux. So I go to hotmovies.com. I search for Venus Lux's page. That'll show all the clips and all the movies. And it has tagged each thing she's doing in each clip in each movie at which timestamp. It's incredible who else is in the scene. I don't even end up watching Venus Lux. She's in I click one movie there, TS Love Fest 2, and who's on the cover? But oh my gosh, one of my little baby porn crushes, Chanel Santini, with Natalie Mars and some dude with a dick I don't know, who I don't care about very much. And I'm like, boom, I thought I needed one thing. I go to hotmovies.com, I find something else, and then I end up having an incredibly great session with myself and Chanel and Natalie and whoever the fuck that other dude is. So hotmovies.com has so much porn, you don't even know what you don't know you need until you get there. And hotmovies.com, they're going to give you 20 free minutes on top of any package you sign up for when you use promo code MANWHORE at checkout. Not for nothing. Also, lets them know who sent you. And I like getting credit where credit is due. Go enjoy some variety and head on over to hotmovies.com. Use promo code MANWHORE. Now let's get to the show.
Oh my God, I'm just looking at a penis on the wall.
Uh-huh.
Wow, lots of sex stuff. But then I feel kind of guilty that I'm like maybe something will change. So I'll be like, I have a boyfriend. And then two weeks later, I'm like doing the intro and I'm like, I recorded 2 weeks ago.
That whole thing didn't work out.
Yeah. Ignore me saying I'm so happy in this.
I did that with the first post-pandemic date where like we clicked really hard in the texting. We clicked really hard in she wanted to do a video chat like screener. I'm like, okay, but we clicked really well in it.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, this is awesome. And then since it was both of our first like real dates out of lockdown, we actually acknowledged how there's going to be a lot of brain chemistry fuckery going on and this, that, and the other thing. Like I was recently on a breakup and she kind of had a thing and too. And we were like, okay, let's be emotionally irresponsible with each other. Like, let's agree that we're going to say things that are emotionally inappropriate for our first date. Yeah. We're going to say things we may not even really mean, but like maybe we kind of feel like we mean in the moment. We like that night, like we were having sex all night. And we said, I love you.
Oh my God.
And it felt real in the moment, not like the next morning, but yeah. And so the next day I was recording the monologue for my show and I'm like, oh my God, this, that. And we did this thing and it was beautiful. And we're going to move forward and start going out and see where it develops. Maybe those feelings will become real feelings. Episode comes out the next morning, about 3 p.m. We had a date for that night and she calls me to be like, hey, I'm not really feeling it. I'm like, shit. I just told my audience.
It feels embarrassing, but still, the audience have all been there, so they get it. Yeah. We've all had that where we're like that intense, and I feel like those intense questions are the ones where you're like, or those intense
those shares.
Yes, those intense shares, those like where you feel like you love someone straight away is usually the one that burns out, I feel. It's like infatuation or something.
Yeah, there's a humility to come back on a microphone a week later and be like, yeah,
I remember I did Tori Fiskin's podcast and she was like, basically like, I think I was like, yeah, I think I'm in love with this guy and stuff like that. And then when I said I was in love with him, I realized I wasn't in love with him. And then she was like, oh, the podcast just dropped. And I was like, I can never listen to this.
Exactly.
I felt like so embarrassed.
Well, it's a good time to say like, what's fun is we should probably introduce each other. I'm going to say that I'm here right now with fellow comedian and sex podcaster Katie Boyle.
And I'm here with fellow comedian and also sex podcaster Billy Procida.
Yeah. Hello. Welcome to each other.
And I just saw you sex points. That's why I got distracted when I accidentally said questions because I was like, I interviewed her.
As did I, which I noticed when I was doing research for her. I found her episode of your show.
She's amazing.
She is a fucking hoot. And so we thought we would do a fun dual release episode. We're going to drop the same thing on both our feeds. And so we'd have an opportunity to kind of like interview each other, even though we both have like a very similar conversational interview style, it seems.
We have the chats.
And to prevent me from interrupting you too much.
That's okay.
We thought it might be fun to trade barbs, to trade questions. I think the first one I'll go just to piggyback off what we were just talking about. So you've been doing your podcast for 2 years now.
Yeah.
How's been the adjustment of oversharing your personal life on the internet?
I feel like when I first started doing it, I would wake up every morning after we release an episode with like regret, like what have I done? And then I got used to it because the payoff is so much better. Because I feel like for me, I learned so much. Like it was like the podcast has been like therapy and like helped me grow. That sounds really pathetic, but you know what I mean? I feel like in all the relationship advice I've heard or all the people we've interviewed and they've shared their story, I feel like I've learned so much. So it's like I'm happy in that regard. But I was also really worried that it would affect like relationships and like dating, and that's always been in the back of my mind a little bit. But
have you had a lot of first dates that start with like, so I listened to the podcast?
They don't admit it, but there's definitely been guys who I know have, because they say stuff that I'm like, okay.
That's from episode 27.
Yeah, that's like a bit much. So it's like they're already going in there with all this information about you, which is hard, I feel like, because they already have a picture of you. It's like a version of me, but that's not. I'd rather like to get to know someone slowly. And then secondly, then men are afraid that they're going to be on the podcast or they're going to be material. But then again, it's like, if you're not a dickhead, you've nothing to worry about. Like my boyfriend now has, and he's even said like certain things like, no, he said I can talk about whatever I want on my Patreon, but he knows there's only like 55 people.
Right, he's like, well, that's behind a paywall. Like, I know the numbers fine. For that one.
But he's a comedian as well, so he's like pretty cool with it. But I think regular guys are a bit like, oh Jesus, I'd be worried now or like what their family thinks. Like this, and like the thing is, like, I'm not posting like naked photos or whatever. Like, I know you did naked yoga, but I honestly feel like as a woman there's like all these levels of shame and stuff, so like because I talk about sex I can't do that. And I mean, I could.
Do you think people would take you less your opinions on sexuality less seriously if you were?
No, I think the women who do that are great. I just know that for me it's like it's like all these steps, so like a levels in a game. So but when I started doing the podcast, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm talking about sex. Like, that's so shameful. And then the more I did it, I was like, actually, this is important. We should be talking about it. But it's just more like I've come from a place where women don't really talk about that. Women don't really do it. So I don't feel like I only started posting like bikini pictures. Like I think I posted 2 this year. And it's because I'm like still dealing with all of that shame and stuff. So I think that I love that I've started doing the podcast, because I'm like realizing that there is all these things for women that it's like we're put in these boxes. So if you're talking about sex or you're also posting naked pictures, you're also doing OnlyFans, you should be allowed to do all of those things. Yeah. But there's still that like I physically just talk about sex and I just write jokes about it, and I get messages from guys being like, "God, you're such a whore," and I'm like, so do you know? Does that make sense? It's like I'm also not willing to deal with that just yet. I don't want to do an OnlyFans. I think it's great that people do that. I don't want to do naked yoga.
By the way, you should see the way her eyes just twitched into the back of her head.
I mean, I think it's so great that people do that, and you make so much money. But I just know like it wouldn't. That's a thing that I like. I just want to keep my masturbation or whatever to myself and my partner, and that's okay too. But I would never. I think it's great that people, like one of my friends, she made like 60 grand, and she's like happy with that, and and it's like, yeah.
It's like, get it. And so it sounds like doing the podcast is helping you break out of a box.
Exactly. Thank you. That was my long arse way of saying that.
That's okay. We got time to fill. That's fine.
Like, it's just, I'm happy. So it's like, I feel like it was good that I started doing. What about you when you started oversharing? How did you feel about it? But you're a man. Episode
1 is me saying like, oh, why won't anyone love me? Right. So it's like, it's not even me. It's not, it's not Bitches I Banged with Billy Persida, which is a great podcast title for a shitty podcast.
Yeah.
So it's like, from the get-go, I was talking about more emotions and feelings. And yeah, like sometimes
So that's
I'm
very
going
vulnerable for a man.
Yeah. So it's like I wasn't man fist bump.
Yeah.
It was more like I'm getting laid. I go to sex I go to group sex, but I just want someone to love me for me. That was my problem. I had women would sleep with me, but they wouldn't date me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to know why.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's like I think I was most nervous about not oversharing because as a comic, I'd already been oversharing, and I was kind of raised in a culture of talking about your feelings incessantly. But I was nervous about the perception of me with this face, doing a sex podcast and it being like, ugh, this man talking about his fucking and his dick and and he looks like the guy who did or said the thing to me in college and so I think I was nervous about people seeing the name of the podcast, looking at my face and having a perception of what I do instead of actually like judging me on the content itself.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think, if most people don't read captions or blurbs, so they just see man whore and they're like, oh, okay, he's talking about all the people he's fucked. But like, I think when you describe it, it's like, yeah, that's great, because there is people who just sleep around and they're like, I want a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and trying to step out of that.
Yeah, like we can be whores with hearts of gold, like we can want other things, like the I don't know, all the sex stuff I feel like should be the least interesting thing about me, but some people are like, oh yay.
I think it's really interesting. So let's say for me, I'd wait till the third date to have sex, which is like, oh, okay, that sounds like proper, but I've had a fucking lot of third dates, so it's just an interesting
third dates you didn't even want, but you're like, well, I want to at least get to the sex part, so I will go through a shitty second date just to get to see if this dick is good, so
I can deal with my own shame. And it's like funny because let's say you could be like, you're talking about your podcast man whore about all the people you've just slept with once, but I've also slept with a lot of people I just waited till the third or fourth date. So it's like, it's just interesting because you would think then we would start dating, but then it just doesn't. Men will wait around, and then maybe after I sleep with them, maybe I will date them, but it might only last like a month or two. So,
well, I had a lot of women in my early 20s who would they would sleep with me on the regular. Like it would feel like we were dating, except we weren't dating, quote unquote.
And why was that?
I think I still believe that I felt like a safe option to go into casual sex. Yeah. So like maybe if you're just out of a long relationship, like I give you those boyfriendy vibes without any of the obligation of having to treat me like a boyfriend, right? Or like I seem like someone you could experiment with safely or without whatever judgments are attached, or I also had a knack for like meeting women right before they moved across the country or right before they entered grad school, or they choose, they're dating multiple people. Oh, I'm not settling down, and all of a sudden they settle down. Right. So it just happened over and over again where it felt like we were dating, things felt great. And when things would end, it didn't feel like there was really a reason. Felt like I was a stepping stone very often.
And did you find out from doing the podcast what you feel you were doing wrong, or what you felt you could have communicated better?
Oh, I definitely am sometimes more of a jerk than I thought I was. That definitely got some revelations.
And what was the jerky stuff you did?
Oh God, there's one really embarrassing story that's just popping in my head. I haven't thought about it. One of probably the first 40 episodes I had on this woman. I forget what name she used, so I'm not going to say, but we hooked up a few times. I was 22, 23. I would go out to Jersey. I'd see her there, and she'd come into the city. And one time we met at this bar on 8th Avenue and 23rd Street, and she was going to blow me in the bathroom. So we had a drink, and then I went to the bathroom, and then she followed in and she sucked my dick, and then someone banged on the door at one point, be like, what's going on? So I'm just like, she doesn't feel good. I'm holding her hair back. It's like someone's sick. Because they're hearing gagging and gurgling. And so I'm just like,
oh my God,
she's just really drunk. That's what it is. And then afterwards this is bad. So we leaving, and I would need to go right to go to my train. She needed to go left to walk half of a city block in broad daylight to the subway to get herself back to New Jersey. And she wanted me to walk her to the train. And I couldn't compute that because I didn't have like emotional feeling, like romantic feelings for her.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't. Like I was just like, oh, I gotta go this way, and we got into a fight on the street about that. Then I totally forgot it. We never hooked up again, rightfully so on her part. So then, years and years, years later, I have her on the podcast, and she like reminds me of this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do not remember being such a piece of shit. My bad.
How old are you now?
32. I just turned 32.
Yeah, no, 23. Everybody has like, oh God, I can't believe I did that. 23. But like the thing is as well, you just didn't, well, I guess for her, she just had her penis in your mouth. So yeah, you could have walked her.
You could have walked me half a block. It doesn't have to make sense. Maybe just do it.
yeah, 100%, definitely. But I guess for you, you just saw it as just a sex thing and you weren't putting any, I do think like men do that. So they'll show you, like it's like, listen to their actions and they will not do things that even seem relationshipy at all if they want to keep it casual sex. And you're like, oh, he probably just didn't walk me to the train because he was rushing off. And it's like, no, a guy who wants a relationship, they fucking walk you to the train. They ask you to text them when they're home. It's like,
and she may not have even wanted a relationship as much as she just like wanted a common courtesy of like, I just sucked your dick in a bathroom. You can walk me half a block. And like, I just didn't put that. I was very, and like up until like mildly recently, like really obsessed with the concept of being right and things making sense. And that's definitely gotten in the way in my relationships because like I am not fun to fight with.
Yeah.
Like if we're dating and we're in an argument and I am technically right but not emotionally right, fuck, that would always go ass backwards.
What does that mean though?
Okay, so I might be right technically like about a thing, like objectively I might be accurate.
Yeah.
But there used to be no empathy involved. So I would always be acknowledging the thing that happened and she might be trying to express how it was making her feel.
Yeah.
So I was never addressing what was ultimately more important because the thing usually wasn't important in itself. It would be the effect it had. And I was just like having a huge empathy block because my brain was like fixated on, but like I didn't say that thing you keep saying that I said.
Yeah.
And then she'll be like, and then she would just say like how that would make her feel, but she would keep saying I said a different thing. And so instead of focusing on, oh, I just made this person I care about feel this way, I was focusing on I actually did not say that sentence, type of thing.
And I think as well, it's always like, that's one thing I've learned as well is that you both have different perceptions of situations. So it's like really good to be just like, oh, okay, well, I actually didn't mean it that way, but let me explain how I meant it. And I'm so sorry that's how it, like how you felt or whatever. But it is hard though when someone says you said something you didn't. You're like, fuck, I didn't say that.
I really have to take those deep breaths, and it's still a struggle. And like I know my last relationship, like I know she didn't enjoy when we had arguments, but she definitely helped me learn how to argue better in that. Just taking that deep breath and focusing on it doesn't matter that she's wrong about what I said or didn't say. She's clearly upset. How about we just talk about, I don't even have to say this is what I meant or this is what I intended. I can just be like, how are you feeling? Like, let's talk about this. If it's getting this ugly over something minuscule, there's probably something bigger that's been going on.
Yeah.
What's been going on? Maybe this thing was just setting off an underlying problem. And that underlying problem is more important anyway.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to learn and do.
That's great. I'm a good arguer, I feel.
Why? Do you just acquiesce the whole time?
Do I what?
How are you a good arguer?
I think so because I was just thinking about this when I was walking here because like I just had an argument with my partner last night, but something happened where I was like, oh, that's weird. And he was like automatically like, oh, relax. And I was like, no, I explained exactly why it's weird. And then I said, you put yourself in my shoes, have a quick moment to think about how you'd feel. And then he was like, oh my God, actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And then I was like, when I bring up these things, because I think his automatic thing is like, oh, we're going to break up or whatever. And I'm like, we're not breaking up. This is healthy. If I don't argue with or don't bring this up, I'll just walk away. If I don't like you, I'm not going to waste my time bringing this up. If I'm bringing it up as an issue, it's not like
it's worth it to me to solve it with you.
Yeah.
Because I don't have to solve it with you if I'm going to leave. I'll just leave.
Yeah. And I don't want to have to repeat myself. So it's like the second time I was like, and I was like, I don't want to have to repeat myself. So really listen to me because as well, that's just like frustrating. And then he was like, actually, yeah, you're right. It was like a storm. And he's so great in everything else. So I also was like, I don't want you to think that I don't appreciate everything you did tonight, but it still doesn't mean that this doesn't bother me. And, you know, and there's going to be things that I'm going to do that are going to bother you, and you'll bring it up as we go along. And he was like, yeah, actually, he was like, yeah, you're right. He was like, I just feel bad. And it's just like, ugh, now I feel bad because you are right.
Yeah. Saying you're right and I'm wrong is just a terrifying thing for people to say, you know, because people don't like to admit that they're wrong. They don't like to admit that they believe something that was wrong. They'd rather just dig their heels in and be like, no, the election was stolen.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, so I think as well in situations where people are like, no, because they don't mean. So it's like, let's say if I have a boyfriend and I have a best guy friend, okay, and I'm always saying like hugging him and touching him and kissing him on the cheek, and then my boyfriend, to him, that's going to be like, well, that's a little uncomfortable. That's our thing. But to me, it means nothing. So you could quickly get, I don't do that, but I'm using this example, you quickly get defensive and be like, what are you talking about? He's like a brother. It doesn't mean anything. And it's like, it doesn't matter. You might know but you have to put in boundaries and show by actions. And so like, it's so quick to be like, oh, you're being silly, you're being jealous, you're being blah, blah, blah. But actually, you're seeing it from your viewpoint where you'd never fuck but the other people don't know that, does that make sense? So I think like people get defensive really quickly because they're like, in my heart, I know I'm not doing anything wrong, but that doesn't mean that other people can see that. Am I articulating that?
No, yeah.
Okay,
that
good,
makes sense.
So I think it's always good to just not get defensive and be like, oh, like try to put yourself in their shoes. I always try to be like, how would I feel if I saw someone doing that? Or like, so guys DM me all the time. I don't play into it. I'm just like, if they want to go to a show, but I'm not like flirting with them. And it's because if I saw my partner doing that, I would feel betrayed. So it's like, you just have to put yourself in their shoes instead of being like, well, I know it's guys on the internet. It doesn't matter. Yeah.
Well, actually that feeds into the question I'll go and send your way is, based off of listening to one of your episodes, you have quite the fascination with thirst traps.
Yes.
So what is your fascination with thirst traps, and is that something you've been trying to do more of?
No, I guess my friend Serena Kajani, she's an entertainer as well. She posts mostly thirst traps, and she told me we were away for Christmas, and she was like, "You should post this picture we took of us in our bikinis," and I was like, "No, because my followers are there because I write," and I was like, "I don't feel like I'm able to post a thirst trap because I write about sex and I talk about it." And she was like, no, that's ridiculous. And I was like, I promise you I'll lose followers. And I was like, I do think most of the followers are there for the jokes. And I think it's like some women sometimes maybe, and I'm like, this is total pulling this out of my arse, but maybe are like, oh, I'm not here for her to post pictures of her body, like, so there can be a little resentment sometimes. And I don't think that's all. There's so many women who are so supportive of me, and like when I posted that bikini pic, we're like, oh my god, you look great. And there might be men who are following me who then maybe their girlfriends see and they're like, no, I thought you were following that show. You don't know what the context is, but I did lose a lot of followers when I posted it.
Posting a bikini picture?
And it was the first bikini picture, since I'd gotten a following on Instagram. So yeah, I did, and I was like to her, I was like, look, and it was like going down and down. It was like a lot for how many followers I had. But it was also the most likes I'd ever gotten on a recent post. So like Serena's like, well, it's your tribe. And I'm like, yeah, but it's also like, what are people coming here for? They're just coming for my jokes and my stand up. But she was like, yeah, but that's ridiculous. They should be coming for you. And it was all this like, I don't know. But then I went to Miami.
They should be into the totality of Katie Boyle, not just the writing skills of Katie Boyle.
Well, she's also just like, you should be proud of your body and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but like, I don't know. It's not like I work out or whatever. I'm not like a workout person. I'm just skinny because I have IBS. I just shit all the time. I'm like ill. People are like, you look so great. Did you work out? And I'm like, I think I'm dying.
They'd be like, oh my God.
Yeah, they're like, you have abs. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I'm emancipated. Then I just posted bikini pics when I was in Miami, and again they got a ton of likes and stuff, and I think
and you lost followers.
I lost some followers, just some, but I also was like, I have enough followers now that if I lose, and not as many as I lost when I posted the first one. So
I get that on Twitter, not on Instagram, but I'll get that on Twitter, where if I'm like trying to post something from OnlyFans, and I won't post like a full on, I mean, it's not going to be like just a close up of my dick or anything, but if I want to post like a really hot maybe half naked photo or something suggestive, I will lose followers. I won't get likes. I will barely get likes. I won't get retweets or anything like that. But then the click throughs, and I'll be like, you disingenuous motherfuckers.
Yes.
It's like, you won't just click that like button, please. I need it for my soul.
But people don't want to see this, and this also
like
comes.
they'll click through, they'll follow the OnlyFans, but they don't want to publicly say we think you're hot.
Yeah, but that comes into all the different levels of shame that people have. It's like, I don't want to be seen liking this or supporting this, but I do like it.
I don't want people to know I like a guy who doesn't have abs.
Yeah. Wait, so you have OnlyFans? What do you do on the OnlyFans? You just jerk off and stuff, or?
I do that sometimes.
Wow! Do you have a lot of followers?
It pays for the fucking
Oh
room.
my god! I'm telling you, I just wish I love my father so much, and he disowned me for sure. I mean, he's so supportive with this sex podcast stuff and everything I talk about, but I just know that'd be because he's a policeman too, and there's just so much shame in Ireland. It wouldn't be worth.
He's not just a cop; he's an Irish cop.
Yeah. So it's just like, could you? And my sister's younger, and she already gets shit because of some of my stuff I post on TikTok. Recently a clip was doing well, but I just privated it because I was like, there was 2 of the clips that were doing really well, and it's just me joking about sex, which it's just not worth. I don't want her paying for what I do, but I also don't want me being censored. So it's like, but anyway, so OnlyFans, even if I ever decided, I'd love to do that, I'll never do that.
Yeah, my dad's got no issue with it. He said he fist bumps. He's proud of me for doing it, but like for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
Like, because he wouldn't be happy if my sisters had them.
Well, exactly. Like if I were a man and I was posting jokes about, do you think my sister wouldn't be getting in trouble? Like she wouldn't have the lads at school being like, "Oh, look what your sister did." They'd be like, "Oh, your brother's a fucking legend." And it's like such a catch-22. I watch this show and she says in it, and I say this a lot, and I think doing the podcast made me realize it, or the thirst traps, or like, so she says you can't be a woman and be funny, independent, smart, and hot. And because you have to put women in boxes. Well, she's really funny, or but she's hot, or
you can't be too awesome. You have to not have a couple of these things.
Yeah, no, and they're like, well, then she couldn't be nice, and it's like people can be lots of things. Like people can be pretty and funny, and it's like, don't put people in boxes for fuck's sake. It's ridiculous, but that's what people do. And I just thought in that show, she's always like, she's very like independent, and she's like, I love her. She's always like, stop being a ball sack instead of a pussy, because he's like, balls are weak, pussies are strong.
That they are.
Yeah.
Very stretch, like there's strength in the stretch of a sack, but the entire area is very sensitive to impact.
Yeah, you're literally ball sacks when you get your ball hurt.
Yeah,
you're not pussies, because pussies are strong and they push out babies and shit. Oh my god! But wait, so back to the OnlyFans. So you that's amazing, and you just like it's like a Patreon basically, but you do sex stuff.
Well, it's just like, I'll put it this way. It's where Billy can go and be way cuter than he can be on Instagram. Instagram has like algorithms set up. This has been like confirmed to like detect certain things. So for example, like my ex is a fat activist, and she gets a lot of photos taken down totally clothed. Will wear the exact same clothing a thin model will wear. Hers gets taken down because they think there's nudity. Why? The algorithm is detecting the skin that is being shown. She's a fat woman, and there is more skin showing because she has more skin, but the algorithm detects there's more skin, so they automatically pull down the fat chick stuff and not the thin model stuff.
Oh my, that's awful, because that is like my bikini pictures, I'm just like literally just triangled over my tits and triangle over my vag. Right.
So if Megan had worn the same bikini you did, post the same pose, hers very likely would get taken down.
I hate that.
More
That's
likely
awful.
than yours. Yeah.
Ugh.
Or like, so similarly, the algorithm has stuff. They have like these bots, these things. I had a video where I pull a microphone out of my fly.
Okay.
Right, as if I was pulling my dick out.
Yeah.
Like the microphone's in my jeans, so it looks like I have a bulge, and I'm like groping the microphone.
Yeah.
I'm stroking it over the jeans in the microphone.
Yeah.
Then I unzip and I reach in and I pull out a microphone as a gag. I post it, and 2 seconds later, Instagram says we took this down for sexual. I'm like, what? It's a microphone.
I guess it's like sexual innuendo or whatever. I don't know.
Because like the thing thinks that I'm grabbing my dick. Like it's perceiving that this is because there's not humans involved. We'd have to pay them livable wages, and we can't have that. So they're trying to train computers how to detect
the AIs.
it. Yeah.
But it's still cool that you do have a Patreon or have a OnlyFans. I didn't know. I'm so dumb. I didn't know a lot of men had OnlyFans. And who would sign up? Would it be women as well signing up?
Some of my top 1% of fans, like my top spender is some lady a married woman in the Midwest.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love this. This is so great. So lads, get on it. Get on your OnlyFans.
Absolutely. It's a place I can go to post my thirst traps. I don't have to worry about risking my public facing social media.
Yes.
It's a place I can monetize not just that, but
you do masturbation as well.
Sometimes, yeah.
Wow.
No, absolutely that and partnered stuff like with friends of mine. Yeah.
You do like sex stuff too.
Oh yeah, I just posted like blowjob videos with Lucy Moon. Everybody, go check them out.
Oh my god, this is like I feel like that guy. I don't know if you guys have read the book A Brave New World, but when I come over here, I'm like, what the hell? This is like so different. I'm going back to the woods. I'm going back.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and like I said, it's a play. And also, I've been building this audience as heard my sex stories, have grown to have a fondness for me. Maybe some of them think I'm cute and they've wanted to see stuff. And now I can kind of funnel that energy in a more profitable direction. Like, do you want to flirt with me in the DMs? It might be inappropriate to just randomly do that on Instagram. But if you come on over to my OnlyFans, like you can totally flirt away. And when one of us starts getting aroused, just start tipping.
Wow, I would make so much money if I could do that, but I can't, and I also just don't want to. So there is something I like. So I like when I have a boyfriend that they get to see like my naked body. That that's something as well that I like. Like I like sending them like versions of nudes, and that it's like unique to them that they're just getting it. So that's my other thing with thirst traps as well. Like, I don't put up a lot of half naked photos as well because. I've always kind of liked being like, oh, look, like, I don't know. I like keeping those certain, and we're so public that I like those certain, that physical act private. Yeah.
Well, yeah. When we are putting most of our lives on the internet, it's nice to have some secrets. Like, I don't have many secrets from like the internet, but like I have a few, and I feel like I'm going to hold them for just so I can have some, or until, there's a way to make really good money off of that secret, right?
I'm like that with my podcast, but then with the Patreon, I'm just like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, you guys are paying $1 to $5. Here you go. Here's my everything I did this week. But yeah, no, I was going to say something there about the OnlyFans and I can't remember now, but that's great.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
We'll see how long that lasts. Question. Who's hotter, Americans or the Irish?
I mean, physically not the Irish, but the Irish, for sure. I mean, like, technically, I do think there's more physically hotter people here. In general, just, I don't know. Walking down the street, you're like, fuck, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. What the fuck? All gods. But I think for me, I find Irish men more attractive because I'm more attracted to banter and crack.
Okay.
And I have found over here dating people, there's like a bit more of a sensitivity, a bit more of a culture clash. And I just love like the crack, and the Irish lads have that down to a T. They're always like, let's do something fun. Like they'll slag you. It's good banter. So I think their vibe is more attractive. If I'm like to generalize group, I find like white American men, so again, just generalizing, a bit like loud or like this is what I would have saw at my bar. So it's not like comedian men. Comedian men remind me of like Irish men, and immigrant men, and Latin men or black men also remind me a bit more of like I love.
Basically, you're saying white American men are kind of lame.
Well, because I love even like performing in front of Latin people or black people. It reminds me so much of like Irish people and the way we interact. Because UK, I just did a show where there was UK people and it was like screaming and like really into it, and that's what I like, and that's what I know some comics are like scared of those other rooms. And I'm like, no, I love that. It's the same as Irish people. Like they'll tell you if you're doing shit, but if they love you, they'll be like, oh jeez, that's great. Like they're very interactive, and I love that. But when it comes to dating too, I found the guys that have asked me out that are white American are like financy and loud and grabby and broy, or like wearing boat shoes, and you're like, Jesus, I need to cover my drink, like a bit. And again, this is a huge generalization because my boyfriend now is a white American man. It was the first white American man.
Performer.
He's a comedian.
Right.
First white American man I've dated in like years though. Only other one was an Irish American. But other than that, I haven't dated any, maybe like the odd date I've gone on, but it's all of my exes have been either black, Asian, immigrant, or immigrant, because even the Latin guys I dated, they were immigrants. They weren't like Latin American.
So what you're saying is your exes all put together look like a very diverse ABC comedy.
My dad was like, "You just going to date every country in the world, Katie?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, I'm getting to meet different people, learn different cultures." Because he'd love me to date an Irishman, of course. But yeah. So I guess I found them and this is not just white American men, so American men in general. So even ones that are first generation immigrants, the team I have found, and I've dated a lot, is that much more emotional, much more in tune with their emotions, maybe overly emotional. I've had a couple of men cry, and I'm like, fuck, like it's very like, yeah, we don't cry in Ireland, you know, we lock it up. One guy cried on the first date, and I got him a whiskey. We were in my apartment. I didn't know what to do.
What was he crying about?
He was talking about it because people I don't know what it is with first dates over here. Is people really, a lot of people I attracted to are probably a little toxic, but they will tell me their problems or their like childhood traumas, and maybe I have a face that I'm like, oh, just talk to me about things. But
I have a sneaking suspicion, because people have been doing this to me since I was in fucking high school, where everyone thought like they would look deeply into my eyes and be like, I can tell this person anything. I wonder if it's the blue eyes.
Maybe
I wonder if there's something about
eyes.
that is inviting to say like, here, please let me inhale your trauma unsolicited.
It's crazy because it's like, firstly, men, I'm not actually qualified to deal with that. I'll give you all advice, but I might not be given the right advice.
Like, I'm not a therapist.
No.
I am a comedian with a sex show.
And it's unfair. And then secondly, I do think it's their way of like forming an intense bond quickly, but it's like also what happens is they end up like a lot of my first dates is they're just talking about all of their problems, and then they're just become like a vomit. They're vomiting, and then in this case, this guy cried. So he stayed over that night, and the next, because I was like really drunk. And the other thing was we were really drunk. But the next day, I was like, "Oh, how's my little crybaby today?" And he was just like, "Don't ever call me." And I was like, "Fuck!" Like, I've so many instances of things like that where like I had another guy when I first moved over cry because he was like talking about the universe and how fucked up the universe is, and I was like,
well, that one's a little more valid in my opinion. I'd be like, that's worth crying.
Oh my god! I'm like, no, we were only dating like 2 weeks. Another guy cried because he was like on cocaine and he was meeting my friend, and he was like kind of just too fucked up. And I was like, oh, you're too fucked up. Like, this is like ridiculous. And then he got like really upset because he was ashamed. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I hate when people get upset too. And I know that the world is trying to be like, men should cry and men should open up.
But not on the first date.
And I also just think as well, it's like a bit of a cop out. And I think if for women too, I think anybody, like, of course we need to deal with our emotions and need to be able to cry. But you need to also just go, you know what, you're right. That was bad behavior. I'm sorry. I'll fix it and work on it. But when you start getting upset and you're like, oh, I'm a terror. And it's like, it's a self-pity. Like, I'm just like, no, I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying, you know, like, don't do it again. And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
You got to play caretaker on a date. You want to have some fun.
Yeah, let's just have fun the first couple of dates. So all of those things. So like if you're early on and you're just being like, oh, I don't like this, you don't need to get upset about it. It's like we're just like learning how to be around each other. But also like childhood traumas. I had another guy like, oh god, he just talked the whole night about like all of the horrible things that happened to him, and I'm like, fuck me, like, can we just, that should be 6 months down the line or a year down the line when you, that's the stuff where you like, when you really trust the person. I feel
there was someone even just in friendships, like I was like almost, I guess I would call it auditioning someone to be like a good friend.
Yeah.
We were getting ready to like hang out in person again, but like every time she and I would chat, anytime it was, it was always negative. She's always complaining about something. She's always, something's wronging her. She's always upset. Something's always stupid. And I love snarking at stuff like any other person, but I mean, there's got to be positives in your life. Otherwise you're not fun to hang out with. So then it's like, so she's kind of failed the audition. Like she texts and I'll interact when texting, but not too much. Cause I'm like, I don't really want to invest much in this potential friendship because it seems like a real downer.
Yeah. I even felt like when the pandemic happened, I thought about this because I was like, I know so many people who like being down is like their personality. And I was like, well, now everybody's down. Okay. So you're gonna, that you can't be, you're not unique anymore. And I think, yeah, I don't know. It's a strange thing. I've never had that in Ireland, but didn't date a lot either in Ireland. But I just think in Ireland it'd be more like, let's have fun, and you'd be nearly like hiding your problems because you'd be like, I don't want them to know like I'm a total mess. And, whereas here it's like, I'm a mess. You should like this and fix me. And you're like, fuck me. I don't want, come to me fixed.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest complaint over here. But again, maybe that's the city. Maybe if people in Ireland would be like, well, that's what like Dublin's like. So maybe all cities are like that. Just, I don't know. Maybe it's a generational thing. It's like that. I know this is such an outdated reference, but Friends just came out with their new episode. That episode of Friends with Bruce Willis when she's like, come on, talk to me. And then he keeps crying and he's opened the floodgate and she's like, okay, I didn't want this. If a woman even cried on the first date, you will go back to your friends and be like, that was a bit much. Like, so it's like, nobody should be crying on a first date. Cry to your friends or your parents. Or, I mean, if you're crying about how your parents don't love you and you haven't got friends, get a therapist.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, I don't know. But the guy I'm seeing now has like a really healthy relationship with his family, so that's good. He's like goofy. He plays Settlers of Catan. I'm like, oh, what is this? I know, but that's never my type. Is like really like kind of more like cool and like stylish and like like masculine. And I have dated a couple of narcissists, and like I'm very my mother would definitely be probably. I don't know what her mental health issues, but they're bad. And I think I in turn am attracted to guys like that. Like, and it's then the past like year, especially in the pandemic, I've been trying to break out of that. So like less, because it just happened that a lot of the guys who are like emotionally abusive or narcissist or manipulative are also the guys who like present themselves as like really manly and dress well. Not saying that's all the guys, because a lot of my friends are like that and they're very sweet, but I've never really gone for like the geeky kind of goofy type. This guy, but I've actually, his style has gotten better since we're dating.
You work on
and he
it.
got a haircut. My friend Tori Fiskin was like, because when we first started dating, I was like, I don't know, and she was like, you know what, you've dated all these guys that have had mental health issues and you've tried to fix them. And she said, as women, and I told her she should do a joke about this on stage because it's really funny, but she said women do that. We'll be like, oh, this guy looks like he's hot, he's like a great style, but he has like, he is like mentally unwell, let me fix him. And then you have a guy who's like a great communicator, like a sweetheart, will treat you like gold, and you're like, I don't know, he has a weird haircut. And you're like, you could just be like,
that's so much more easy to fix.
Yeah,
right? Like
that's
we can take care of, we can work on that.
And guys are actually very approachable with stuff like that, because my guy, it was like, his hair was so poofy. And I was like, wow, like this is wild. And it's so bad because he's like, I shouldn't care about that. But I was joking and I was like, I can tell how humid the weather is by your hair. And thankfully he took that well. Thankfully he's not too sensitive. But he was like, I'm waiting till I get a haircut because I'm going to a wedding. And when he got it, I was like, oh my God, your face has changed. Yeah. It's like night and day. So, and it's like, I also like try to dress well and like, I like to, I think, God, I don't want to sound like I'm being vain here because I'm not, because I definitely dated him for his personality, but he did.
I don't want to sound vain, but I post such good thirst traps. People unfollow me.
No, I don't think that they're good. Maybe they're like, look at that emancipated bitch. No, and it's like also, it's okay to be happy. Okay, well, I need to finish this sentence. This sentence is that I really like that he got a haircut. Is that okay? Is that bad?
I think that's fine. Okay, I appreciate that feedback because like I'm an idiot. I know I'm an idiot. Yeah. I know I don't know how to dress. Yeah. And so I appreciate when one can help me dress better, because someone say, just do this. And I'll be like, I don't know how the colors go together. Yeah. Just tell me, I'll wear the thing. Yeah. It's like, if I want to, I know how to use my nose. If you want to put me in something that actually makes me uncomfortable, I'm going to say no. Yeah. I got, my ex got me a button down red shirt that like I really just don't see why I'm gonna wear. Maybe I can use it for layering at times, but I'm not used to a red like that. No. So like, it mostly sits in a closet, and that's okay. If she wants to show me how to make my hair look better, fucking please. I've been begging for someone to help me look better. I just don't know how to. So I welcome that feedback.
Yeah. Absolutely. And he said to me last night, he was like, I want to look more attractive for the person I'm dating. So
I just don't know how to. Yeah. Like, you just got to show me.
He used to have a lot of, like, he was a lot heavier. So his clothes that he was wearing before he went shopping just didn't fit him right. So he kind of
There's also a comfort in looseness. Like I was a chubby kid growing up. I hated long sleeves. Yeah. Why? Because it was tight to my skin. Being tight to my skin is reminding me that my skin is bulging out in a way that not only do I not like, but apparently all the other kids don't like and the other girls don't like. Being anything long and tight would remind me of my size. So I didn't want to be in it. That's why I like loose jeans. Like I had to have women show me jeans that make my butt look good so that I don't keep wearing the baggy jeans that I was like so used to.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, even as myself as a woman, I used to wear like O'Neill's, which you guys Americans won't know, but they're like these like baggy tracksuit bottoms that I'd always dress like a guy because I wanted to be like one of the lads. And then
wait, the tracksuit with the vertical stripe lines that
they're like that kind of, but they have zips
like
at the end.
They're like Brad Pitt wears in Snatch. Is that?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, exactly. And so I was just comfortable, but I wasn't comfortable trying to be pretty or whatever. And like the older I got and the more confident, it's like, oh, it's okay to want to look nice and it's okay to like want to be. I hate this as well. In Ireland, there's this bit of like you can't be too, like, you have to be very modest about everything, which I do hate because it's like, I have to live in my body. I want to look at my face. Like, to some people, I'm going to be attractive. To other people, I'm not going to be attractive. And that's fucking fine. But for me, I have to live in it. So I want to look at it and be like, it's my father's face. I like my father. Do you know? So like, I hate this where putting yourself down. I was talking to this girl recently and she was like, oh, I'm so ugly. And she's like, beautiful. And it's just frustrating because you're like, I just want to slap you and be like, no, just know you're pretty. Because why live? We only live once. You're dead, more than likely. Why not just enjoy? And we're going to be old at a certain age. I'm 30, so I don't have a lot of years left. So, and that was that point with Serena. She was like, enjoy your body. If you like a nice photo, don't just not post it because you're in a bikini. You're on the beach.
There's also something about the getting older and like actually caring about things you didn't care about before.
Yeah.
So like I didn't care as much. I cared about how I looked, but I didn't care about the fashion part. And then like I saw the benefits of it when I tried. I go, oh, like
it makes you confident too. Like I color in my eyebrow. I don't wear makeup anymore. I used to wear makeup, but I don't. Foundation. So I don't wear foundation, but I color in my eyebrows. And it's like, I don't know why, but they make me feel more confident when they're darker, which is probably ridiculous because they probably don't look any better. But it's just like whatever you do. Like I wear mascara and I wear like eyeshadow, but I don't need the foundation. So it's like whatever makes you feel confident and comfortable. And it's not like being full of yourself. It's just, I hate when people are like, look at her, they're so full of themselves, so they love themselves. And it's like, good, let them love themselves. My boyfriend now said he thought when he had a crush on me like 4 years ago, and I was like, he was like, oh, and now I'm like hot, you're dating me. And I was like, well, actually, you never asked me out 4 years. You never even spoke to me 4 years ago. And he was like, yeah, I was way too nervous. So it's not like he never gave me the opportunity to reject him.
Who asked who out?
It was definitely me. He says it was him, but it was me because, so firstly, he didn't give me the opportunity to reject him then, but he said he thought that I would have been more. He was like, oh, you're pretty and funny, so I thought you'd be like full of yourself, and like now I know your personality, and you're like really. If he listens to this, he's gonna be like, I didn't fucking say that. That's gonna be one of those things where you're like, where I've heard it wrong.
I'm sorry, can we bring back the transcript?
And
it's just like, I'm just trying to say how I feel.
Yeah. He's probably gonna be like, that's not what I said. He said something along the lines of that, so I don't want to quote him properly, but like he was like picturing like whatever perception he had of me. Then when he got to know me and we're dating, like he still wanted, but and then you probably tell yourself that as well if you're like, well, she's out of my league or whatever. She's probably not a nice person or whatever you say to make yourself feel better about not approaching. I don't know. It was something along the lines of that. I wish I remember correctly. I'm afraid that. And then when we started dating, he was like, oh, you're like really goofy and silly. And I would never pictured you like this. And so that's how we got into that conversation. He was like, yeah, I just thought you were like kind of cool. But you're actually like quite not cool. But like he likes that. And it's like,
As in not too cool to approach.
Yeah, like he had an impression of me just from the outside. So people have impressions of people and you're like, you're putting and same with me and him. He talked to me once at a party and I remember thinking, this guy's a little weird. Who asked? I saw him at a show and I was like, oh my God, he's so funny. And I booked him for my show. And when I went in to book him, I saw that he had asked to do the show like 2 years ago. And I had said, I'll get back to you, and I never got back to him. So I was like, ha ha ha, lol. And so I messaged him on Instagram being like, oh, like, I'd love you to do the show. You're so funny tonight. And sorry, I never got back to you before. And he was like, oh yeah, thank you so much. And then I saw he wasn't following me. And I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. I thought we were friends for the past few years. Have I just been a fan and you haven't been following me? But I don't know, like, if he unfollowed me at some point, if he thought because I didn't respond to him, if he got mad. Like, this would have been him when he was like younger, because it's like 4 years ago. And then we just got talking about that. Like, so it was definitely me slipping into his DMs, because I did think when I was booking him, it is really funny, but I did think, oh, he's kind of cute. But then I was like, he's not my type at all. So what am I thinking? And then, you know, I was just booking him because he's funny. And then we talked for a couple of weeks over text.
But you
message.
know what helps balance the scales in comedy is if women started booking guys simply on looks instead of that. Just mix it up. Just be, this is how it feels. I want you to double guess your talent.
Well, I promised I would never book someone that's not funny, because I wouldn't want my show to bomb. So
sure,
I might book them because they're funny and cute.
It is interesting that, you know, he was nervous, like, just based off perception of you, because like there are definitely comics like I've wanted to ask out 100%, and I get nervous because like I view it as a work thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, unless I'm getting a signal or vibe, I've just like kind of always defaulted to like, I guess I'm just not gonna hook up with or ask out on a date this comic.
Well, he said it was that he was like, no, you're out of my league. You're like funny and attractive.
See, I would view it as like, oh no, there are levels above me in comedy, and then that's where the inappropriateness would be.
Well, I think
be like, well, she's more of a headliner. I'm base, maybe a feature, so I can't ask her out.
Yeah. Well, I think when he first came to the city, we were both doing open mics. So this is 4 years ago. But I'm glad he didn't ask me out, because I wouldn't have fancied him at the time, and I wouldn't have been the type of person, like, I'm like, I've grown so much, which sounds pathetic, but I'm glad he's dating this version of me.
Yeah.
Just because I don't know, I was like not really a great person to date at the time, just because I was like new. I don't know. I'm.
Well, it seems like you grew up with, and tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like you grew up with some kind of sexual shame.
Yes.
And it seems like now you are in a way better spot regarding sexuality. So what has been your growth journey? Like, how were you raised around sex, and what has been your growth to break out of that?
Well, because like, even for an example with this guy, if he had dated me 4 years ago, I wouldn't have known how to orgasm. So I only figured out how to orgasm like 3 years ago. So when I was 27. So my growth with that was just, well, I grew up with a emotionally abusive, and she was quite violent with my dad, mother. So here's me oversharing, but it's not a date, so it's fine. But that, and then my dad left when I was 5. We still had a relationship, but he wasn't there, so I got like the majority of his share, and I look like my father, so my mother we didn't have a good relationship.
Every time I look at you, I see him for 18 years.
Exactly, the man who like abandoned her. But and like, he had to leave. She was like physically abusive to him, and I remember that, so it was crazy. And like, so what I saw,
do you feel like that gave you like a different type of empathy? Sorry to interrupt, but did that give you a different empathy on men that I don't think not everyone sees? Because you actually, you know, we hear about allegedly men face this too, but then the shout is back is always not nearly in the same numbers, but you grew up with it.
Oh yeah, no, it was awful. And especially like what I witnessed was, and so when I say he left, he had to leave, because I mean, he was, it was awful. It was the fact that he never hit her is kind of amazing, because that was 5 years of her pushing him, hitting him, throwing stuff. He would like lock us in the bathroom just to get away, and she would throw herself up against the wall, or the bathroom door, just up against it, like a demon woman. So me and him are very close, but we like went through a bit of a war together. But he left when I was 5, and then she just, all of her anger was directed towards me. And I'm sure that he probably didn't even realize maybe that would happen. But so I always decided when I was 18, I was just going to do my time, like as if I'd have already fucking committed a crime, which I didn't ask to be born, but that was it. And when I was 18, I walked out, and I've never spoken to her again. Amazing. And I'm 30 now, and it's the best thing I ever did. Because I do think if you're in I think people are very judgmental of that sometimes, but it's like, A, you weren't there, B, you don't know the situation. So just because you have a healthy relationship with your parent, and like, you know, they'll be like, oh, it's your mother, you should love them. And I'm like, no, if I were in an abusive relationship with a man, you'd be like, leave him. Exactly. So I think we can dump our parents. With sex and stuff, you know, I don't know, like my mother made it a little shameful. She was like, I remember like bringing up this topic of sex when I was younger and her getting like really mad, being like, that's disgusting. You're probably going to be a lesbian. You're probably going to be pregnant by the time you're 15 and saying,
wait, Mom, if I'm a lesbian, am I a lesbian or am I getting pregnant at 15?
I know.
Pick one.
I know, right? I always wanted to be a lesbian because I was like, oh, I wish I was a lesbian just to like piss her off, but I'm not, unfortunately. I like girls a little bit, but not enough to be with them in a relationship and be a good girlfriend. I like penis, but unfortunately, so I think, and like I never knew about masturbation or anything, and like just the odd things like people, I remember like the guys in school when I was 13 saying if girls have long nails it means they don't finger themselves, if they have short nails it's gross, they finger themselves. And that's like just like, but then I was like, oh, so that's already, I didn't know about like touching your clit or whatever. And then I didn't do it.
You can touch your clit with long nails because that's just more.
I have long nails.
Right, yeah, go for it.
I touch my clit all the time now. But it wasn't until I came over here and had more friends who were more open about talking about that. And like a lot of my friends are like they're female comedians. They talk about sex all the time. And New Yorkers it's all very open, and so I learned so much, and I was like, oh, okay. And
what was that culture shock like? Was that easy to hear, or was it really uncomfortable?
It was uncomfortable at the start, and now it's easier. And I do notice that sometimes I'll forget, and I'll be like with my Irish friends, and I'll just talk so openly, and they'll be like, oh, Jesus Christ. And I have to be like, oh, sorry. But like a couple of my Irish friends are more like, I've attracted more people like that now who are like, oh, it's so great to get to talk about this now. But you might be with a group with people and forget. And then there'll be like a friend of a friend and they'll be kind of side-eyeing you. And you're like, well, you were talking about, your job, you're accounting, and I'm talking about my job, which is sex. Yeah.
And mine way more fun than yours, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
but
I listened
they
to you
have
talk
more
about
money.
actuarial mathematics for 20 minutes. I was a good trooper. Now you're gonna listen to butt plugs for 10 minutes, okay? And you're just gonna be an adult and sit through it.
Well, yeah, no. So I loved that I came here because I was having all this sex where I wasn't orgasming, and I was feeling sad afterwards, and I was just like, I don't think I like sex. And now I'm like, I love sex. It was just like an anticlimax. You're doing all the work without the. So I made it like a thing where I was touching myself every night to make myself orgasm and figure out how to do it. And I was like spending like maybe like a half an hour to an hour a night figuring it out. And then I made myself. And now I'm like, I know exactly what. So with my boyfriend now, he's into he's into some shit that I'm a little scared of, to be honest.
Okay.
Which is like so new for me.
Oh.
But I'm not ready yet. Like, and
Can you share
it's not even big. Well,
things?
he talks on stage about how he likes a finger in the arse, and I haven't no one's ever asked me for a finger in the arse. So this is like
to do. You just put it in.
I know, I will.
Just get a glove and some lube. Get some latex gloves. Like those are easy to get, and then that'll make the cleanup easy if there's a cleanup. And,
oh yeah,
yeah,
latex.
Yeah, they you could buy a box of them on Amazon. Like 100 of them. There's these like black nitrile or whatever gloves, and they just make that nice and easy.
I think I'll just cut my nails.
Yeah,
but
just one little finger.
I will, of course, one day. It's like anything. It like takes a while to get used to masturbating. It took a while to get so comfortable in sex, and I feel like I'm so at a good part, but no one's asked me for that before. So it's just like, oh, okay. And he didn't ask. He just talks about it on stage. So I was like, I know this is something
it's there, but
yeah.
no one's addressed it.
He was like, don't worry about it. And I was like, one day. And he was like, yeah, of course. But it's like, and he's into erotic massages, which is like amazing. But I can't imagine this girl 4 years ago wouldn't have been comfortable doing any of that. And now like we have amazing, like we have shower sex, and like we've done sex where we just go slow and learn each other's bodies, or like, go fast and all that other stuff, or like to come but to not come, and like the erotic massage stuff. And it's like, oh, we wouldn't have been good together 4 years ago. We're like this now because of all of the, and he's learned that probably from his exes and a mutual friend of ours. But so we're at this point now because of all of those. So yes, I'm glad I came to America, and I'm glad you guys made me slutty.
How long from when you did sorry to barrage you with questions, but like what, from when you started that experiment with the masturbation, like how long did it take you to find the click of it all?
I think it was a while, like
really?
Maybe like a months, maybe. I was definitely like very frustrated.
So you put in some time.
I put in some time because for me, I know it's not, well, I don't come with just not clitoris stimulation.
As you don't come with just penetration.
Yeah.
As most women.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could, if I find that one day, great, but I know that clit is my thing, so I have to masturbate during sex, which I wouldn't have even ever done in Ireland. I didn't even know that. I thought that was like a dirty thing.
You didn't think you were allowed to touch yourself?
Yeah, I
while
didn't think
he's
it was
in you?
even hot. I didn't even think a guy would like that. And so
Oh my God, it's so hot to watch someone be like, "Oh my God, I'm getting assistance."
yeah, and I'm
And-
sure.
And if this all fails, we can kind of blame you too. Like you get
Yeah.
if this doesn't work, we share the blame in not pleasing you.
Well, absolutely. I'm sure all of the guys in Ireland would be like, yeah, that's great. But it's just no one talks to me about it. And my ex, I was with him for 3 years. He never asked, but he probably didn't know either. And it's just a lot of like not exploration and not asking. But I remember with him, he had a little bit of a belly. This is my ex in Ireland. And when I'd be on top, it would feel like I'm about to orgasm, but it's probably because the belly was rubbing against my clit.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I would feel it, it felt like I was going to wee. So I would stop it. It was like when I was masturbating, it was trying to get past that mental block of like letting, because sometimes you're about to orgasm and then you think about it and then you're like, oh no, I'm not. And it's like trying to like as a woman, you have to really relax yourself and like get in a certain headspace and then get used to that. Like letting yourself, like, it's like letting yourself open up and be vulnerable and wee if you're gonna wee, because that's what squirting basically is, a little bit of wee or something. I don't know what it is, but it feels great.
I can't speak to like the entire male experience, but I can say I have to go through a similar wheels turning in my head, not to orgasm, but to say at times, sometimes like if I'm feeling nervous, to like maintain the erection.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I have to be comfortable and I have to relax. And I have to be, everything's okay. Everything's fun. Okay. Hey, it might get half hard and it might get hard again. Like that's all fine and well and good and blah, 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 blah. And then I can just have that good time.
Take the pressure off.
Exactly. Yeah. No one's having good sex if they're feeling a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And I think men should never feel bad about women coming, because we're such a Rubik's Cube that it takes us years to figure out ourselves.
I just say like my goal is to have a good time and make you feel good. Like, so I'm gonna do my best not to keep asking you like, are you gonna come? I just want to be like, does that feel good?
Yeah.
And like, if you come, that's a bonus. But like, if I can make you feel good for an extended period of time, I feel like I'll have done my job.
The amount of men I liked in Ireland being like, yeah, I came, just being like,
do Irish men eat pussy?
Yeah. No, fairness, they do.
Different cultures I know can feel different. Like I know Italians, like older Italians, there was like a thing about like eating pussy was like gay to them. Like my dad's
it's like
generation.
literally the least gay thing.
Yeah, it was like
unless you're lesbian, then it's the most gay thing. So, but I'm sure they mean in like a man sense. No. Like my ex ate vagina. Yeah. I don't think it was as much as. Definitely not as much as I get here, for sure. But that could have been just our relationship. I don't know if I really enjoyed it as much as I do now. And if I had guys, like I had a sex with a British guy a while ago, and he didn't go down on me straight. And I was like, that's weird. But I think maybe I was a bit spoiled here with American lads, because he'll be like my boyfriend now. He'll probably does it. He does it more than anybody I've ever. He goes first, and then he goes after as well if I haven't. Come, and I'm always like, you don't have to, and he's like, no, I want to make sure you come. So he's like, yeah, he loves eating veg. It's great. I'm like, fucking goofy geeky guys, Settlers Catan, still eat the veg.
Lucky you.
Yeah,
way to go. Congratulations on that.
Yeah. And I also, like, that first time he went down on me, I just gave him direction, and afterwards he was like, oh, thanks. And I was like, no, well, thank you. Well, obviously it's like it's my enjoyment, it's my pleasure, so I'm gonna tell you what to do, but thank you for not having an ego about it. Because some guys, I remember one guy was like, you didn't go down on me, and he was like, yeah, well, I'm amazing at it, and then like he didn't really take direction well, and I'm like come on, it's you take your ego out of this. Every woman's body's different. Like no person, like if I'm giving you a blowjob and you're like, can you go faster, I'm not gonna be like, fuck you, I
have a technique, and it is
everybody likes,
to my being.
literally every single person likes a different thing. Every guy I've given head to has had a unique or different, like, can you lick my balls, or don't lick my balls. And one time I thought there were so many guys who like their balls being licked over here. I didn't know that was a thing because no one ever asked me in Ireland. And then I had started seeing an Irish guy here, and I slept with him, and I was giving him head, and he was like, oh god, this is amazing. And he was like, really, like, because he said he hates blowjobs, but I was like, I'm like one of those competitive freaks, so when people say that, I was like, oh, I'm gonna give him the best, I'm gonna fucking go to town here. And then I went to lick his balls, and I swear he leapt so hard, I think his soul left his body. He was like it was just, he was like, what did he do? What was penis. Not in a good way. In like a never do that again.
Those weren't supposed to be wet.
Yeah.
There's a scene in this movie. My favorite movie, Chasing Amy, has a scene where like they're talking about going down on women and how like. It's like they're at a lesbian bar, so it's like it's Ben Affleck and Jason Lee talking to some lesbians about like about pussying, and it's just like you should. This like I want them to be like the air traffic control person at the airport, like with the orange things, just going like tell me when to stop, when to move forward, to go to the left, to go fast. Like just give me some direction, and I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, this is good for listeners to listen to, because even for men or for women to hear that men want direction, and for men who don't take it, just take it.
Right. I'll put it this way. Men worth your time want direction. Yes. If they're not worth if you give direction and they go like, oh, then you don't want to fuck them anyway. Yeah, like, be like, we're good.
They're going to have egos in every other aspect of life.
Yeah. Women can be like that too. Like if someone doesn't respond well to like really healthy sexual communication, you don't even have to lambast them. You can just be like, this person's not worth my time and my sexual energy. Peace out, deuces. I'll find someone else who is thrilled to know, like, actually, I need two in at the same time.
Yeah.
So I find sometimes very tiring and difficult to.
Two in who?
Like sometimes there'll be women who like they light, while I'm going down them and I'm licking their clit. They'll be like, can you put fingers in too? Which like I'll do, but either I have to. I find this motion. Yeah. I'm very limited with my range of motion here. And so I find it difficult sometimes to I just need to talk to some of my lesbian friends and be like, can you give me a tip on how I can like lick and finger at the same time? Because also, if I'm close enough, if I do pull it off, I am rubbing like the palm of my hand up back and forth against my beard, and that hurts. I never
realized how hard this must be for you guys in that angle. I think maybe if you sit them on the bed and you're kneeling down on the ground, because I even find with blowjobs, like I really like when I switch them around and they sit so that I can like so that I'm not, because sometimes you go for dinner, right? And they have you're sitting on top of them. So the gravity, and I start like nearly puking on them, and it's because of the position that I'm in. So if I turn them around, like I love shower blowjobs. Yeah. I love shower blowjobs because you're like, the water's running, you're like, they're standing up, you're in a good angle with gravity. Yeah. I'm not good with my stomach, okay?
Okay.
So if I'm upside down, I'm like, oh, that dinner, fucking Indian we just had is going to come over your penis.
Oh, no, yeah. I love asking a woman, like, what position would you like to be when you're about to do the thing that is the nicest thing you can do to a penis ever? Like, how can we make you most comfortable for this? But yeah, no, position, I think sometimes women don't always recognize, like, when they have requests and the position for it. So, like, I had someone over here on Sunday who we were sitting, she was straddling me on the chair and she wanted me to finger her while she's straddling me, but like, okay, maybe I can get in.
Yeah.
But like, I have limited range of motion. So it's like, I can do the thing you want. And then like, I'm in her and I'm like, I'm here. I can't do much right now. Yeah. Would you like to go to the bed where I can finger fuck you properly? And she's like, that would be great. Yeah. And then took her over there where I had all my shoulder can be involved, all that.
So it's just about communicating. That's so great.
Yeah.
Should we end this?
Should we? You tell me.
Wait, I wanted to ask about naked yoga.
That's just, I started doing yoga about a year ago. I was making fun of it for a long time, like most of my life, and not for a good reason. I didn't try it once and then thought this is dumb. I saw a Brian Regan joke in the early 2000s and he said, I can't do the relaxation pose. And I thought, I guess yoga is dumb. And then never tried it. Yeah. A poor way to form opinions about the world is from stand up. So I tried it about a year ago during quarantine. I was like, fuck.
It's a game changer.
Amazing.
I'm the same with you. I'd be so judgmental of it, but now it's
it's critical to a good day. I did it before you got here. I did a nice 24-minute flow. I balanced on a thing in a way I didn't think I was going. When I finally got to set the foot back down in high lunge, I was like, I just accomplished all that balance.
Yeah, it makes you like. I had a sore back, and I did yoga once, and like for the next 4 days, my back pain was gone.
Yeah. So the naked yoga, I just end up doing yoga naked because like I tend to be naked when I'm in my space.
And were you nude in the videos?
Where did the question come from? I'm just curious. Like, where did you see that?
I think my boyfriend was like, "Who is this person you're interviewing?" And I was like, "Oh, Billy Procida." And then I was like, do you know him? He did naked yoga videos. And that's how I know you. That's
From
the
where?
first-
How'd you know I did naked yoga videos?
I think someone sent it to me from Twitter or something.
Oh my God. Okay.
I think someone was like, oh my God, did you see Billy's naked yoga?
Oh my God. Okay. This is embarrassing.
Why?
So, okay, there's a reason. Okay, now I see how this got here. I had Periscope. Now no one has Periscope, so now I feel great because you all lost it.
Yeah.
I had Periscope, and Periscope allows allegedly nudity. It just can't be sexual nudity.
Yeah.
That was how I read the guidelines. So I thought, like, after I started doing some of the yoga, I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
Also, the reason why I like doing naked yoga is I do feel in touch with my body. Like, I feel even more aware of what my body's doing just because I don't have the clothes on it. So, anyways, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to just like Periscope naked yoga. Like, maybe I'll be that guy. I don't know. Like, we were comics in quarantine. We were all trying to find internet ways to get people to notice us.
Absolutely.
I was like, fuck it. I'm going to show how much, like, I'm pretending to love my body.
With what you talk about and being comfortable with sex in your body. So,
also, like, I don't have a fancy football podcast. Like, it kind of vaguely makes sense within the brand of everything. So I was like, I'm going to do that. So I did it 4 times. I would get thousands and thousands of viewers. And then Periscope, like, whether it's from people reporting or what, but like Periscope then, they canceled they were like, you are not allowed to do this anymore. Yeah. And I was like, you could have just told me that. You didn't have to cancel my whole account. But anyways, like, so I know like Keith Malley, for example, like he sent me like a screenshot of me in Happy Baby pose.
Who's he? Is he the short?
Keith Malley from Keith and the Girl.
Oh, I was thinking of some comic who's like, he always tries to talk to me when I'm at shows.
Oh, that's fine.
But that's great.
So I was doing, so your boyfriend saw it from me doing
No,
it.
I saw it. I said it to him, but I don't know who sent it to me.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah. Sorry. Someone sent it to you because like so Periscope, I can then tweet out the Periscope.
Oh, you tweet out the
And so comics I knew started unfollowing me.
And it wasn't even like a bad thing. They were just like, I don't even know. I don't remember them saying anything offensive. Just like, oh, did you see this? Like, nothing. I think maybe they were like, it's cool.
Did Billy quit comedy? What's going on?
Yeah, I think they were sending it like, oh, like it definitely wasn't like an insulting thing.
Okay,
and I remember like looking at it and being like, oh, okay, that's different.
Yeah. But yes, anyways, I've carried it over to OnlyFans because I was just a way, like, because I can again, I have a more appropriate place to put that. Yeah, and there's some people who enjoy just like watching me for 10 minutes.
I can understand why people would think it's so nuanced, these layers, but I think maybe like having your willy out on Twitter is just, but and it's like it's all so nuanced. It's like
we're just testing out what that audience wants or doesn't want. Maybe the audience would have fucking loved it. I don't know. I'm don't
sure
know
they
until
did love it. It's probably just more that it's like maybe like parents being like, I don't know, because Twitter feels like very adult, so it should be fine. I mean, if
it wasn't, and that's the thing. Twitter didn't take it down. Technically, Periscope did it, and so like Twitter didn't take down the Periscope on my feed. Like Periscope itself, the standalone app, they're the ones who were mad about it, and then wouldn't let me log on anymore.
Well, there was a real crackdown though on like what you could, because I know TikTok took a bunch of my stuff down, and none of it was nudity. It just was like
sexual.
He's talking about sex stuff, and then and like crazy things that they were like, and I'm like, that's not bad at all. That's like something. This is informative. So there, and I know that YouTube had a thing, so there was a big crackdown around the pandemic. But I think like that, people were like, I'm just gonna do naked yoga.
Yeah, I was like, check out my body, everybody. Hi.
I think it'd be worse if you were like a fucking Brad Pitt or something. Like, do you know, you see some, because I see some of these guys on TikTok and they do that, and they're just like ripped.
They're just being hot,
and they're just like, they're so hot that it's nearly ugly. You're like, that's not even natural. That's not a real person. And then they're like pretending to touch their dick, and I'm like, this is uncomfortable. I didn't pay for this. I didn't sign up for this. Swipe. I was showing my boyfriend last night. I was like, what is this? Look at these people. He was like, calm down. Okay, I have to go.
Let's do some plugs. Katie, where can people find you?
Katie Boyle Comic, or the Katie Boyle Comic or the Shift Podcast. And where can people find you, Billy?
Well, they can find me on most places at the Billy Procida. That's P as in Peter, Rocida. Or just come listen to the Man Whore podcast if you're one of the Shift listeners tuning in on Katie's feed.
Yeah, do.
Yeah, come. You can find me anywhere you find the Shift. You can find the Shift anywhere you find the Man Whore podcast. Go subscribe to both of our shows, and I'm sure we've all got we got Patreons, we got social media. Come click our links. We love our links being clicked.
Yeah, click the links.
Click those links. Well, Katie, thanks for chatting with us. And why don't you go ahead and say goodbye to everybody?
Bye. Love you all.
Later. I don't know if anyone else caught this, but it was very fun for me in post to discover. But on at least a couple of occasions, Katie is referring to her thin body as emancipated. I think she meant emaciated. And oh my, editing the podcast on Juneteenth, that was kind of a funny there. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Katie Boyle. Make sure to go check out the Shift podcast wherever you're listening to the Man Whore podcast. And you'll see links to all of our socials here in the show notes. Man Whore Con 2021. It's coming up August 12th through August 15th, and we have one room left. It's a more the merrier room. It has 2 queen-size beds, and it can be reserved by 2 to 5 people. It's just a little over $800 for the entire weekend. $800 a night? No. It's like it's like $813 the whole weekend for 2 queen-size beds. Are you shitting me? And an amazing, fun-packed, sex-positive weekend with dope people like myself and fans of the show. Come on, get out of my face. JK, LOL, get in my face, shoot me an email if you'd like to reserve that room with a friend or several friends. Hey. Also, the Fan Whore Fantasy Football League. We're still taking on owners. Every year we like to do a $30 fantasy football league with the small intersection of fantasy football players and sex-positive weirdos who listen to this podcast, who also have $30. So if you want to claim that room for Man Whore Con, if you want to claim a spot for the Fan Whore Fantasy Football League, or if you want to email me your comments, your questions, your criticisms, you can send any and all of that over to manwhorepod@gmail.com. Hey everyone, read one news article about something you have a strong opinion about, learn something new to defend your position, or, and I'll challenge this to you, change your position. Hey, growth and change is cool. Humility is sexy. Enjoy your hot vax summer and stay slutty. It's the vibrator that has no equal. And now, Motor Bunny offers their thrusting sex machine, the Motor Bunny Buck. Enjoy a fan whore discount at manwhorepod.com/motorbunny or use promo code manwhore at checkout.